So thank you all for joining the Boston Office 365 user group. I am one of your co-organizers, Dimitri. Along with me, we have Mr. Pileggi to my left and to your right. And unfortunately, Bill is not feeling great today, so we miss him being here today. So our typical agenda is to go over some Microsoft 365 updates from the last time that we met, just because there's always a lot of things that are changing. We don't have a sponsor highlight today, and then we're going to turn it over to Mr. James to walk us through the key session for today. And then we'll close it out with some Q&A, some community chat if anyone's hiring, looking for work. And then we'll wrap it up with a raffle at the end. So for those that weren't able to make it to the last session, Jared did a great presentation around taking your Copilot instances and going from just doing a pilot into an actual deployment. If you weren't able to join us, come check it out on YouTube. I believe that should be posted now. It is perfect. All right, so let's talk about a few updates from last time. So we've all been in a scenario before where we're syncing a SharePoint site into our computer, and then somebody that's not us deletes a file, whether it's in the browser or deletes a file on their version of the sync folder, and now it appears in my recycle bin. Now, I like to keep my recycle bin clean, and this really confuses me because I didn't delete it. Should I restore it? What happened? It causes a lot of confusion. So Microsoft is changing the behavior where now if a user deletes a file from their synced folder, it'll put it into the cloud recycle bin only. So you will no longer see that in your laptops or desktops recycle bin. So therefore,
I found out this morning someone lost the file.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find it.
So
no, I should have been here a day sooner.
Problem solved. This is rolling out right about now, and you don't have a choice. There's no ability to opt out if you prefer the old behavior.
I didn't know that it could do that. That's amazing.
All right. Next update. So for those that are responsible for endpoint devices, there's a concept called secure boot, which essentially digitally signs your BIOS and your whole boot when you start your computer. Unfortunately, some of the certificates that have been shipping in the last, 10 years or so are starting to expire. And if you don't update those certificates, when you boot your computer, you'll basically just get a warning message saying that your secure boot certificate is invalid. You can still get into your computer, just to clarify. Microsoft has been pushing out new certificates through Windows Update to many devices, but it's not for all devices. And we just had a meeting earlier today with one of our clients where half of their devices weren't updated. So if you administer or are responsible for endpoints, definitely take a look at that. Microsoft has rolled out a new icon as of get the update from Tuesday, which now will actually tell users with a warning if their certificate's about to expire. Moving on. So there's a feature where you can administer your own groups. I think many people don't really know about this feature, but if you go to myaccount.microsoft.com/groups, you can see all of the groups that you're part of. And if they enable you to leave the group membership yourself, you can do so. If you're a group owner, it also lets you administer who's part of that group. So Microsoft is now starting to roll out additional functionality to here, where you can start to set email aliases and sensitivity labels. You can determine whether or not welcome emails are sent when someone joins a group. So there's a lot of new functionality that's being added. So if you haven't checked that out and you want to enable your users to be more self-service and self-sufficient, this is a great way to do so. So the next thing is Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat. So if you do not have a $30 per user per month Copilot license, but you still want to enable your workforce to be able to work with agents that you create and publish, you can do so by enabling pay-as-you-go billing. Pay-as-you-go billing will essentially, you set up an Azure billing account, you connect it to pay-as-you-go billing, you determine who can actually consume out of this pay-as-you-go. And when that user is interacting with your agent, Microsoft will charge you anywhere from 1 cent to 10 cents per action of that interaction with that agent and your end user that does not have the $30 a month license. As companies were doing this, they were starting, you can set budgets and alerts and all of that around the user spend, but there are some companies that don't really want to deal with this ad hoc nature. They want to be able to buy a preset number of interactions, and then when that expires, buy another, bucket of interactions, so to speak. So Microsoft is rolling out these new prepaid Copilot credits, which will basically act as these kind of prepaid buckets that you could purchase and put on the shelf and consume instead of having variable monthly pricing against it. Yes.
Can those be grouped into like budgets that are assigned to different agents?
Not,
You can prevent one from going.
not by agents. You can assign it by users. So you can create one for like your finance department, your HR department, etc. If you want to do agent-specific controls,
Yeah.
It might be worth looking into Agent 365, which is the new feature that Microsoft is rolling out. That comes up to $15 per user per month license fee. They have a lot more governance controls around agents. How that specifically ties back to billing profiles, I'm not 100% sure yet. But I think in the coming weeks, there'll be more information published by Microsoft, and we'll get our hands to be able to play with it.
You understand what I'm getting at,
Yeah.
right?
When it comes to Copilot tokens, one thing you want to keep in mind, paying by bulk versus paying as you go is going to be a lot cheaper. It's about 1/10 of a cent when it comes to pay as you go, whereas it's something like 0.01 for the bulk. So it's something else to keep in mind.
There are discounts for bulk. So when you do the pay as you go, you can basically commit to a certain amount of spend,
True.
which you still pay as you go, but you're committing to like a bigger bucket. And to Dave's point, you do get discounts, but I think the maximum discount here is like 24% or something.
Yeah.
And that's if you consume to spend $1 million a year in credits or something.
Yeah, it's obnoxious, so be sure to read the fine print.
All right, moving forward. So Microsoft has enabled MCP, which is the standard for having different agents talk to each other from different systems. The idea is that if your CRM has their own AI agent that's really well tuned to your data model and permissions and how users would use it, there's no reason for, let's say, Copilot or Claude or somebody else to have to go and try to map out all of these data models, creating this crazy many-to-many mesh. So with MCP, it's a very clean way. Think of it like federated search back in the older SharePoint days, where you're in one context, you have a question that's better answered by another context. MCP is a protocol that one agent would go talk to the agent living in a different platform, and that agent would then go do its business, bring you back the result, and it will be presented in a unified way. So Microsoft is starting to enable these connectors going forward, and there's a number of different ones that are already built in. You know, HubSpot is one of the examples here in the screenshot. And if you look at any AI product that's on the market that's, you know, agentic, they pretty much all support MCP in one way or another.
Is this a licensed thing or does everybody get it?
I believe this just would be consuming your pay-as-you-go licensing, or if you have M365 Copilot, it would cover under your existing licenses.
So I have to pay for Copilot to use a different product to access my data.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But like, even if you build an agent that has absolutely no generative AI steps to them, right? You can build an agent that says, you know, every time I say hi, it just says hi right back to me. You're still paying 1 cent for every interaction if you're on the pay-as-you-go model. So the same.
Right. So
now, I think your question is valid. Would this be considered an agentic step, which is roughly 5 cents? And that I don't have an answer to.
No, what I was saying is if I build an agentic system that has nothing to do with Microsoft, because I don't want to pay for a Copilot license, is this MCP access included? Because it's just an API.
Oh, okay. So you're asking,
MCP
you're
is
asking
just a
if you were
server
to
that
build an
presses.
agent in Claude, could this talk to Microsoft's Copilot to get Copilot graph data?
No. Copilot doesn't need to be involved at all. I just wanted to be able to talk to the Microsoft MCP to get the access to the data within the Microsoft Graph.
I see what you're saying. That's a good question. I'm not sure.
I'm saying specifically, I don't want Copilot involved.
Well, then you wouldn't use MCP. You would use the Graph APIs to access it. MCP implies that you're talking to an agent,
But if
an
I'm
agentic system.
right, and I am from the outside.
Yeah. But I think it's agent to agent is the MCP standard.
MCP is just a control. It's modular control protocol, and all it does is it acts as an interface on top of the API. So it's just an interface to allow agents to communicate with the API, and it adds an extra layer of security and control.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question, Mike. I don't know the exact answer. If I had to guess, I would say anything related to AI tool sets are going to require either consumption or all you can eat pricing there. All right, moving forward. Next update is that Microsoft is introducing video recaps for Teams meetings, where they will highlight the key topics that were discussed, decisions made. So therefore, if you don't want to only read a transcript and summary, if you want to actually watch what was said and delivered, this will now be automatically generated. You'll be able to access it by going back to a meeting and clicking the video recap button. That's a new button at the top here. All right.
I got to use that this week. It is awesome.
Awesome. All right. The next one is around AI workflows powered by Microsoft 365 Copilot. So if you're inside of the workflow app inside of Teams, Microsoft is now allowing you to take off-the-shelf templated types of actions that are common across the board, like, send me a daily summary of my meetings for today. Recap what was discussed yesterday. Let me know what action items I left off yesterday that did not yet complete. And in doing so, by scheduling and by having a library of things to pick from, one, you don't have to be as creative or imaginative for what could be done. But second of all, it just makes it that much easier, so you don't have to ask Copilot the same questions. You can have it automatically be done on the schedule for you. For those that have been, just quick show of hands, who's enabled Claude within their Copilot instance? Claude's on it?
I have the Claude PowerPoint plugin though.
So if you enable the Claude with Anthropic as a subprocessor to your M365 Copilot, you can now select not only the GPT models, but also the Sonnet model as an option.
I was not paying attention mentally. Yes, I've done that.
You've done that?
Yeah.
So far, it's only been in the browser. Now Microsoft is extending that model selection into the Office application, starting with PowerPoint. So now in PowerPoint, when you're asking it to do things, you can now leverage Sonnet as well.
Show that on computer. Okay, very good.
Perfect.
Dimitri, I've read that. I read that I think coming soon, if you do an entry in GPT, Claude is going to review the response, and if you do it using Claude, GPT is going to review the response. So that I heard is coming soon.
You would be absolutely correct, Deb. Microsoft's approach is not a single model approach; it's a multi-model approach, with the intent being that if you have multiple models and you ask it to do the same thing, you can compare the results between them. So Microsoft is starting to put more into the Copilot, especially when you ask it for things that it needs to be very precise on, especially things related to numbers, to budgets, to forecasts. They're doing that as a way to build more trust into the AI toolset. When that's coming, I'm not positive. I don't think Microsoft has confirmed an exact date. However, next week is the Microsoft 365 conference, and I'm sure there will be a lot of updates coming out for roadmaps and timelines and everything else along that. Is anyone going to that conference, by the way? All right, I'll be there in 90-degree Florida weather
Versus 90-degree Massachusetts weather.
It's less humid. All right, so that being said, thanks to Turn Digital for the space and the food, and we're going to hand it over to our featured speaker.
Okay, thanks, Dimitri. Appreciate that. All right, let's go ahead and make sure I can see if I can share my screen here in a second. Share. Where is it? Why am I not seeing it? Does it only let you share from the browser if you're logged into the browser?
Sure. Top right.
But I want to show my actual PowerPoint on my computer screen.
You should have the ability to share and
Oh,
go to screen.
I got it. Thank you. I just hit the wrong thing. Okay.
The browser's kind of wonky.
All right. All right, you guys can see this?
Yep.
All right. So just to follow up on what Dimitri was talking about regarding that Claude integration, I apparently I signed up for that at some point. That's what it looks like. So real time. There you go. I just got to log in, but yeah, there it is. Okay. So let me go ahead and get this up here. There we go. Okay. Sorry for the technical difficulties at the outset. I apologize for that. But I want to start out. We're talking about process optimization. And so this is a little bit outside of what you might normally be used to with 365 topics. But 365 kind of comes into play. You know, you're going to be using it as part of your process automation. It's a tool in there. Let's start out with a quick story. So one of my previous jobs, we had a new sales guy who came in, and he was like, hey, you know, I've used Salesforce in the past. Let's go get Salesforce. Okay, cool. Let's go do Salesforce. So we signed up for it, paid a bunch of money for licenses. No one used it. No one touched it. Like a little bit here and there just to get set up, but the problem was the sales guy never stopped to ask, is this the right solution for us? Is this going to be the right technology to solve that problem? And it wasn't. And if we'd gone through this process, maybe we would have landed there eventually, but that's not what happened. And so it ended up being a bit of a failure. So just a quick note about me. I'm James Restivo. I started Minibit Consulting at the start of this year, focusing on process optimization, business systemization, doing services like that. I have a few projects where I'm helping customers move from file share systems to 365. So I've still got my toe in the 365 waters, but that is just part of my portfolio now, not the main thing. Because I did spend 13 years as VP of operations at Pro Canyon Software, a software company based in California. We have products such as a help desk and Nitro Studio, and a lot of what we did was around helping businesses make sure their systems are working well and introduce things that help them get to that point. So I have a lot of experience with this, and you know, that's where I come from on this one. So what is process optimization? I mean, let's just break it down back to the base level here. It's a couple things you want to do when you're optimizing a process. Now, whether that's a small process you have, you know, just a quick like sales invoicing handover, or whether it's you want to look at a broader picture of your whole business. The first step is really understanding, like, what are the inputs, what are the outputs, who's doing what, where is it working, where is it not working. And I think that part of it, getting that holistic view, is where I think some process optimization projects tend to fail, is that you're not getting that full picture of understanding what's happening from the get-go. You just got a problem, you fix that problem, but that's not the problem you need to fix. So then you get that understanding, and then you want to go into that improving phase, where you can go and make sure what you're putting in place is the right improvement. So I like to go through this 5-step process for process optimization. First step, interviews. Talk to people. Ask them what they're doing. Get their pain points, get their what's working well, what's not working. Get that documented. And I'm going to make this point a couple times. This part of it, when you're interviewing, may sound like a performance review, and people might feel like that, but I really want to make sure I get the point across. That's not the purpose of that interview. It's really just a documentation step. It's really just saying, this is the way the process works. This is what is happening today, right or wrong. Document it. Then you're going to take that process as it is and map it out. Okay, so we're going to map into different buckets. Maybe it's different functions, but different people doing different things. It goes from sales to invoicing to billing, and then that's a map of things. And that could be done through Visio or Miro or PowerPoint or paper, whiteboard, whatever works best for you. Then, important step you don't want to skip is validation. So you want to take what you've built, that process map, and show it back to the people. Is this right? Is this the thing that, you know, did I capture this correctly? And then that's where you can start making adjustments and changing things around to make sure it is exactly what it should be.
And from my experience, that's where you start to hear things like, well, that's not what I meant.
Exactly.
Or I forgot to mention this. Yeah. Right.
That's precisely right. You're going to be like, oh, I gave you the ideal. No, this is what actually happens. Like, yeah, no, that's the way it works. Oh, but then when it's over over this price, I have to send it over here. It's like, wait, you didn't tell me that first time around. Yep. Let's add that in.
I find that phase is also where I get really interesting conversations when you have different department heads who say, no, that's not how the process works.
Right. Right. But
and then you learn about branches
of
your process.
Exactly.
That either need to be resolved or your whole project just became way more complicated.
Exactly. But that's the work you got to do to get it to do it right.
Yep.
And only then, once you get through those phases, that's when you start to optimize and start saying, is this step required? Can we add a step here? Is there a technology that would make this world, you make their lives easier. And then you go through the implementation phase, which can take, it could be a few weeks, could be a few months, could be years, depending on resources, availability. If there's software that's going to make it work, it could be very expensive and have to go through a budget cycle, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to kind of talk about the way I like to approach these interviews and these different parts of the process, the 5 steps of the process. So when you're interviewing people, you're looking for the inputs. You're looking for, where things are coming into them. Are they receiving an email? Are they getting a text message? Are they getting a phone call? What does that look like? What's that technology that they're using to get that input? And then what are those outputs? Like, where is it going to? Is it going from sales to invoicing? Is it going to billing? Is it going to some other part of the project management? What are those outputs? Who are the people involved in that? Then that'll help you identify where are those bottlenecks? Like, what are things slowing down that process? Where are they getting bogged down? Where are they getting stuck? That's where you're going to start learning those things. Like, well, yeah, I send things over to, let's say you got Rick, who's receiving an invoice from a contractor. He sends it over to Sally over here. And it's like, well, Sally's not making the payments on time. So Rick is hearing from the contractor, it's like, where's my payment? Where's my payment? Well, okay, maybe that's a bottleneck, but maybe it's not. Until you go through that interview with Sally, you don't know for sure. If you interview Rick, you could be like, hey, I think the problem is Sally's not getting her job done on time. Let's start sending her calendar reminders. Wait, that's not going to work because you haven't talked to Sally yet. And this is where I also want to point out that you don't want to solve the problem at this point. This is not, and I do it too. I want to solve problems. I want to fix things. Like, oh, you're having that problem, let me fix it right away. No, you just want to document what's going on. Don't fix it yet. You might have ideas in your head, and that's fine to go ahead and jot those down. But again, we're just documenting at this point. And you're documenting what tools are they using also. What technology are they interacting with? What are they, is it a phone call? Oh, I'm supposed to send an email, but then actually I usually call the person. And it's like, okay, well, let's document that. Let's try to understand why that's happening. And then you want to go through, what are those good days looking like? When the process works, what works well? When the process doesn't work, what's a bad day look like? That's where you start to find those branches that you're talking about. That's where you start to find like the workarounds, like, oh, I didn't get that approval, so I just went ahead and talked to the CEO and got that approval or whatever. And then you want to go through and understand who actually owns those steps in the process. Is it the person you're talking to? Maybe Rick should own the payments to accounts payable or to the contractors. Maybe that's right. Maybe that's wrong. I don't know. But we want to get to that point in the process where we understand who should own it. It's not only we get to the who should own it a little bit later, but you want to know who owns those processes when you're going through these interview processes. The interviews can be short. If it's a short process, it could be a long interview. I'm working with one company where we have like hour-plus long interviews to get through everything, but that's a much larger systemization project. But if you're just like looking at one simple process, that could be 20, 30 minutes, like 15 minutes, whatever it might be. So they can take any length of time, but it depends how complex the project is and how complex your process is. So this is an important part of it where you want the process and function mapping. So you want to understand what's that process look like and start to visualize it. So you can use Miro, you can use Visio, you can use PowerPoint, you can use whatever tool works best, whiteboard, pieces of paper, whatever's going to work for you. Map that process. It's going to look messy. That's okay. But because you want to get what is actually happening, not what's supposed to happen. What is actually happening? And that's where you start to understand where those optimization opportunities lie. So we want to identify those branches, those decision points, those parts of the process where things are going this way. What are those handoffs looking like? Where are things moving from one function to another? So we want to make sure we capture all those in that mapping. So that's important to get written down because that's what you're going to show the person and say, is this right? And then you can build that off of a function list. It could be lengthy. Like I said, that systemization project I'm working on has probably thousands of functions, and I'm just getting started with that one. It's probably ended up being like thousands of functions across all the departments, but that's a big multi-month project. I mean, this is, this could be a small function list of just like XYZ, ABC, done, that's it. But you do want to get granular with it. You do want to understand at a granular level, what are those functions that the people are doing? And that helps you understand like what are the different points. And that really helps you understand once you start optimizing, is that process with the right person or is that function with the right person? Because maybe it's not. Maybe you have the person in sales doing project kickoffs. Why is that happening? Like why do you have someone who's doing sales kicking off the project? Like should be project management. Well, those are the kind of things you start to surface. Yes.
I'm just going to say when I'm doing my user story interviews, one of the things I do, which is similar to your good day, bad day thing, but I like to ask, what do you like about this process? Like what specifically is working for you for this process,
yeah,
and what doesn't work for you for this process.
Yeah.
And then to what you were just talking about, I also always like to ask, is there anybody else that I should be talking to about this process?
Exactly.
Because it's the people that are in the process that will know about the others. And frequently when you first start the project, the person that hires you has no idea who's actually involved in the process.
That's it. That's you start to get those kind of interesting, things that come up like, oh, what's going on here? Why is this happening? But yeah, that's part of those inputs and outputs as well, right? So you get to who are your inputs, and those, if they're people, you want to go and talk to those people.
Yeah.
If it's output to a person, you want to go and talk to that person. So exactly to your point. So validation, this is just making sure you get it right, making sure you've understood it. And, to your point earlier, it's like, you might start surfacing things like, oh, that's how it works most of the time. But wait a second, that's not how it works all the time. Well, tell me about that. 10% of the time, 5% of the time, that doesn't work. Now you get that information. Now, because then if you don't have that, you could optimize the process, but you've only optimized it for 90% of the use cases, not the 10% where things are going wrong. So you want to make sure that you validate that with the people. Walk through it, confirm accuracy, notice the gaps, jot them down. And what this does, it really builds that credibility of like, we're building this together. I'm understanding your pain as someone who's doing the user story, the interview. I understand your pain. Let's work together to fix it. Now you get that buy-in and that stakeholder. You need that stakeholder buy-in to really make it successful. Because otherwise, you do it in a vacuum, voice the process on someone. They're not going to do it. They're going to revert to their old ways very quickly. So if they don't own it, they're not going to do it. It's as simple as that. And it really does prevent you from optimizing the wrong thing. Like I was just saying about the 90% of the time it works great. That's great. Let's optimize for that. But we're not taking care of that 10% where things go wrong. So we want to make sure we optimize for that part of it as well. And then, so it surfaces the undocumented steps and creates that shared understanding. So now we get into the phase where we're actually optimizing the process. And this can take a number of different shapes. Depends on what you find. Depends on what the outcome needs to be. But again, like, are the right people doing that work? Has someone taken on responsibility because that was just the easiest thing to do at the time? Okay, but is it right for them to continue to do that? Maybe they have to like stop what they're doing, take care of this one little process, and then get back to whatever they're doing. That's not an optimized process. That's a bottleneck that you've identified. So you want to make sure you get through those and understand where those things happen and get the right functions with the right people.
Do you find with the right person, a lot of times, for example, your IT department has a cut in workforce. All of a sudden, Bob, who had two others, had this process dropped into his lap. He becomes the bottleneck. And how do you deal with that? How do you bring that up to the executive level? Saying the reason why it's falling short, the reason why there's a bottleneck, when you reduced your resources, it dropped into on him who already had his day job. He's now wearing two other hats.
Yeah.
And so therefore, the process cannot operate in full capacity due to that. Because a lot of times I don't think business process is brought into the thought process of eliminating positions.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. And that's where you identify those bottlenecks and say, hey, we have this one person doing 3 different things, or at one time. You can't have them doing all those things at one time. So you want to highlight that fact, and that's may not be something you can solve just because there's a inherent constraint there, right? If you don't have enough people to make it more efficient, if adding more people is what makes it more efficient, that's the answer. So you want to highlight that as like a bottleneck to say, hey, this person's not able to get to it because they have a crisis that comes up. Now they have to drop everything and fix that IT crisis. And then all those other things that they're responsible for get pushed to the side.
And the real art in that scenario is bringing it up without it sounding like you're throwing Bob under the bus.
Right. That's true.
That's what's really difficult in these scenarios.
Right. And I think that's the important part, going back to the interview piece of it, the user story piece of it, is that you're not judging how they're doing the job. You're just documenting.
The people that you're going to report your findings to might. That's the concern that I have.
Okay. That does take some political maneuvering and some fluffing around the edges to make sure you're.
That's the part that I was referring to.
Yeah. So you do want to present that in a way that's not going to make someone look bad.
Deb, you have a question?
Actually, it's not a question. I just want to add something. So the other thing you need to look at the bottleneck is you got to figure out whether that bottleneck is value added time or non-value added time. And is there a way to restructure the process so that you can eliminate that bottleneck?
Great. That's a good point. Great. So then, so you go through that, you get things unstuck, and then you can start on, looking at, are there any steps in here in this process that are unnecessary? Duplications of effort. Like I send it to billing, but then I also send it over to the CEO because billing doesn't always get their job done. Okay, there's something going on there that's deeper they have to take a look at. And will come out earlier in the process likely. But you start to understand those kinds of things happening. And then you can also look at the automation piece of it. Is there an AI agent that can work for this? Is there a piece of software that can work for this? And maybe the answer isn't technology. I mean, it's all technology to a degree, but maybe it's a physical tool, not a digital tool that you're using to optimize that process. So different tools can come into play, and different ways to automate, different ways to optimize that can come into play.
James, before you move on, I just also wanted to ask a question, like tack on to this idea of this bottleneck, and whether or not it's a person or otherwise. But let's say this bottleneck you identify, is pretty. You're not going to be able to undo it. It's going to be stuck, right? Or at least take just a long time to get through that piece. If you are looking at a much broader optimization, like across systems and whatnot, like what is everyone's appetite to either like pull the plug and be like, geez, if we're really not going to make progress on, like, let's say improving X% of this, like how often do you find it's like, it's not really worth moving on if this is still going to be a pretty significant like lag to the whole thing?
Did you get the whole question?
Elizabeth, your mic's very quiet.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure if you could boost it.
I don't know. Let me see.
So what I heard out of that is, when you're going down this path, you might get to a point where you understand that, even with these automations, there's still gonna have a lot of manual steps involved. We're not really gaining a lot by doing this. At what point do you decide to continue with the project or pivot elsewhere? Liz, let me know if I got it right here.
Yeah, you did right. Like, do people find that do you find that people continue and are willing to improve the rest of the process around it, or just be like, it's really not going to be worth the time, knowing we're not going to make progress in this one particular spot?
Yeah, I mean, I think that can take a number of different shapes as far as, it depends on the organization, what their appetite is. And I think that's part of this, is understanding if you're going to have those kinds of roadblocks that just aren't going to be solved, that you at least understand that, or at least you have that recorded and understood across the organization. Like, hey, we've gone through this process. Here's something we need to fix. We can't fix it right now. But that's really where the long tail of this comes into play, where you have a roadmap of how to do the implementation of it. So this is like I was saying before, there could be inherent constraints to this, and that could be there's resistance to the automation, or there's we know there's going to be a lot of manual steps, and until there's a piece of software that solves it, or there's a piece of software that we can afford that solves it, maybe just sits there as part of the roadmap. But at least, even if you haven't implemented it, at least you've gone through the process and understood where those bottlenecks are, where those problems lie, and you have something that you can refer back to and say, hey, we looked at this. Now that we have more resources, or we had a change in staff, or we had a reorganization, whatever might unstick that, now you can start looking at implementing that. So at least getting to that point of knowing what needs to be changed, whether you can change it or not, kind of does depend on some of those factors that may not be readily changed. But that's that long horizon where you start to look at, if we can afford the software, great. If not, let's put it on the back burner. We know we have this on our roadmap to do this. Okay, at least we have something to move forward with. But you can get some quick wins if it's a small thing. You just notify the right people, maybe fix some miscommunications, reassign functions to the right people, get rid of the outdated steps. Those things can be done fairly quickly. And then, it could be something as simple as, hey, all my finance requests get stuck because the finance officer is never checking their email. And so, okay, well, look at that. As part of this, you might find, well, they're approving every request, but do we really need to approve requests that are under $500? Maybe just let those people buy the thing they need and unstick that process, get rid of that bottleneck. So, and then you can fix those broken handoffs and understanding, are there better ways to communicate? Are there, that depends on what's failing, and then you can understand how to fix it. And of course, I want to mention, if there's any kind of formal change review process that your organization has to go through, make sure you're honoring that before you make any changes. And that, going back to Elizabeth's point, could be the sticking point, is that they're not willing to go through that change request, or so that could also come up. I do want to mention AI because that's like everywhere now. We talked about it today. We'll talk about it in the future. And again, this slide might be out of date by the end of this conversation. Who knows? But you do have possibilities of incorporating AI into your processes. You could do simple things, simple agents. I think some people in this room, or a lot of people in this room and on the calls probably know a lot about what's going on there and using agents and Copilot and all that. But I just want to hammer home, it's a tool. It's not the solution. It's just a tool in your toolbox to use. And you want to incorporate it as part of the process, not as the whole process. Now, there may be some cases where that works. And as AI improves, maybe it'll just become what we do, is just offload everything to AI. But we're not quite there yet, I don't think. But just I wanted to make a point about that. That is something that you can look to as a part of your process.
But I think it's important to say that AI will amplify a bad process.
That's also a good point. And that's why I want to go through and optimize first before you look at incorporating AI. You don't want to just run straight to it, because I know that's probably what executive leadership might want to do, or it's like the hot new thing. Let's get on the board, but it's not always the right answer. And yeah, to your point, it's going to surface bad governance very quickly. Copilot's, I'm sure, done that for a lot of organizations. It's going to amplify your bad process pretty quickly.
I'd say the best way to use it is to use the AI to help you write the automation process, but to not incorporate AI into the automation process.
Right. Unless it makes sense. I mean, there could be change.
Unless you need it, but if you need it just isolated for very specific guided tasks.
Exactly.
As little as possible.
Right. Then you got other people like, oh, automate everything. Just to have all agents do this and that, the other thing.
Automate everything, just don't use agents to automate it.
All right. So just to recap some of the things we talked about: listen before you diagnose, document the process, understand what's happening, get those user stories, do those interviews, understand the pain points, and then show them that mirror. Show them, this is what I documented, this is what we recorded. Is this right? That's where you start to get some of those branching and edge case scenarios written down. Map it. So that's a Visio, you want to map it out. And then you want to talk about automating at that point. If there's places to automate, if there's places to make it better and optimize it, that's that's when you want to do that a little bit later. But that pretty much covers it. So hopefully you found this helpful today, and happy to field any questions. If you have any other comments, questions from the field, I'm happy to take them.
So from left field, have you ever read the book Game Storming?
Game storming?
Game Storming.
No.
Okay. Because one of the things that you'll find with game storming is what you're talking about. It has different ways of approaching it. The one that I love to use is you have a whiteboard. When you're going through a business process, you bring everyone into a room, if that is an option. It's not always an option, but if it's an option, you bring everyone into a room, you have a huge whiteboard, you draw a sailboat on it. And then what you do is, in the business process, everyone who's part of that process has a stack of sticky notes. They write down what they're supposed to do, then they put it on the sail for things that move it forward, put it on the hull if it's something that is a foundational object or something that has to be done, and then an anchor that's slowing it down. So like the bottlenecks, things like that. And so what ends up happening is you very quickly, as people start putting those sticky notes on the boards, you have a visual image as to, and that's just one of many, many examples that are in that book. Mm-hmm. How do you go about, because you do say, I used to use MindJet's Mind Manager, and I would throw up on the screen, and I would literally go around, this is usually with senior leadership, and I said, I don't care if you tell me that the bathroom's too far away from the office, just tell me what problems are you dealing with, preferably when it has to do with collaboration. And then what I would do is I would spike it on the first person, always had the least to say, but once the ice was broke, by the time you went back around, the first person is usually like, hey, I thought of a bunch of other stuff. And so what ends up happening is, and then you can build off of that as well. So there's different ways. What are your approaches when you have these conversations when it comes to processes? Because it's numerous, but with what you're doing, I know that you have probably tried different things. What has worked for you and from your process perspective?
I think one of the most important aspects is just having a genuine curiosity about what it is that they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, like really coming at it from almost a journalistic perspective of just saying, I just want to know, like, the what, when, why, how, the W's of like what's going on here, and then really listening for where things are like, yeah, that works most of the time. Okay, you just said most of the time. What happens when it's not most of the time? Mm-hmm. Start digging into that a little more. So you start like kind of peeling back those layers of the onion, kind of similar to what you're talking about with the round table. I think even within a conversation with an individual person, you can start peeling back those layers of onion and start to get to the heart of like what's actually the problem, what's actually going on. And I think that comes with like building rapport also, because there could be political aspects of having these conversations. If you're within the company, there could be challenges of having communication. And as I mentioned at the beginning, and said I would mention more times, but I didn't, is like you're not doing a performance review, you're not judging the person, you're not judging the process necessarily at that stage. You're just getting what's actually happening. And the more people start to trust that that's actually what's happening, what's going on, they'll be more willing to open up and more willing to share stories of where things go wrong or what are the true bottlenecks. So I think that just comes, just from having that genuine curiosity.
I just first off wanted to plus one to Dave's mention of both game storming and specifically the sailboat method, which I have used and got immense feedback from that. Very useful. And also MindJet, which I also use, which is a great product. But I also wanted to say one of the things that I have found super useful and really important is I always put myself out there as like kind of a sacrificial lamb and say like, listen, I know SharePoint inside and out. That's my area of expertise. I don't know boo about whatever it is you people do. So you need to educate me on that.
Right.
And I find that helps ease tension a lot when you're coming in as the big high paid consultant sort of scary person that's here to eliminate jobs.
Right.
Because that's how you're viewed
Yeah.
a lot of times.
100%.
Even if it's not what you're there to do.
100%. I mean, Office Space killed it for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Facts.
Absolutely. But one of the things that also helps really drive that home, and again speaks to your point, I always create with every single one of my projects a glossary of terms.
Yeah.
And I make that very public. And one of the things that I find is I say, well, first off, I don't know anything about your process. So all this industry jargon stuff, I've never heard of it. So you need to define it for me.
Right.
The amount of arguments that causes in the room, because 3 different executives think that one industry term means completely different things is enormous and super helpful, because it frequently gets to the bottom of some of these branches and frictions and where these flows are falling apart. Because somebody was like, I thought that was capped at $10,000. No, that's not capped until $75,000. Like, what?
Yeah.
Okay, what is it? You know? So yeah, I think that's another crucial piece of the discovery process that is super helpful to share and incorporate in those meetings.
Yeah, that's great. It's great feedback. Yeah, absolutely.
Another thing I like to do early, well, first of all, back to Dave's comment about having everybody in the room. I'm a big fan of that kind of workshop idea for gathering this kind of intelligence about a process. Your note about curiosity, being endlessly curious, is right on as far as my experience too. One of the things I like to do early on, right at the beginning of a workshop typically, is brainstorm about roles. Just who the heck is involved in this process? And you may have 6, 7, 8 people in the room. You'll end up with a list of somewhere between 5 and 100 roles. And it gets people's brains engaged in the conversation because they know people. And to make it clear, you don't want people's names, you want role names, first of all. And when people start thinking about that, it helps them get engaged with the process.
Right.
And then all the questions that you have ready to start asking, being I don't know anything about your process, then there's a basis for those questions and for people to respond to them.
Right.
So it's part of establishing rapport, which is critical, as
Yeah.
you said.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I forgot about the role thing. And you know what? The role thing actually ties back into Dave's discussion about Bob, who has too much on his plate.
Mhm.
If you refer to him by his role title there,
Yeah.
and then that can be expressed as there are too few people with this
With his role, yeah.
rather than
Not Bob's
Bob
fault.
isn't doing his job.
Right.
And the other thing that comes out, and I didn't this too much. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Deb, I think.
I was gonna say, I think it's important to be system-based, not person-based, and that's what the role gives you versus the person's name.
Yeah.
And that helps them expand potentially who could be the person who approves when there's an approval, holding things up in a block.
Exactly. Elizabeth,
You're on mute.
no, I can't hear it at all.
She's on mute.
Oh yeah.
So it's funny because I pumped up the microphone and I'm shouting. So can you hear me better?
Much better.
You're good. Yes.
Okay, I'll keep it at this tone and this volume. So I wanted to, this is on topic, but about a separate system. And I don't know who made the comment as you were going through your presentation, but the point was when you were talking about AI, the person's comment was to use AI in looking at what could be automated, but don't have AI do the automation. My question is, has anyone yet used, so in Power Automate, I typically starting from scratch and using either the instant, the scheduled, or automated, but I noticed the other tile, like for it to be done through AI. Has anyone used that option yet, and how has it worked? Has it worked well or no?
The jury, from my perspective, is out on that. It depends on how well you can actually write out your thoughts in the actual process. If you're a writer, you have a better chance than if you're like a developer, because developers like to just pretend that everyone knows what the context is. So,
Understood. Yeah. I'm not a developer, so I think I'm in the win column there. So, all right.
I've got a super
I
important
found it.
hot tip for you
I
on
found
that.
it.
Go ahead, Deb.
Sorry. I was going to say, I found it longer to write out the prompt that would have taken me to actually write out the process flow.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Sometimes that's true.
I will say before you engage with the AI on any flow, like if you've written out the flow to begin with, and then you want to use AI to modify it, save your flow, create a copy of it,
Yeah.
and then use the AI in that. I literally had one happen. Now, disclaimer, this was when this feature first came out, and I think I had early access to it, but oh my God, it was bad. And instead of fixing the part that was broken, it broke one of the parts that worked. And it broke it so badly, I couldn't figure out how to get it back. So but the workaround is super simple. You can actually, in Flow, you could just copy your flow and then run the AI on the copy. And then if that works, rename it to prod and save the other one as a backup and vice versa. But save a copy first, please.
Yep.
Good advice generally when working with
Yes.
AI.
Yes.
Yeah, no, anytime I'm doing something different from the original, it's always a copy because I need, right. So already in practice there. So thanks.
Also, if you have a Claude license, you can actually just take a flow, export it to a flat file, and then just feed that into a system outside and have it do, I mean, Copilot's the smartest AI out there.
Let me amplify that
Amazing.
comment. So Dimitri's headed south next week. I'm headed to Toronto next week to, among other things, deliver a short session on AI-assisted process mapping. So this is not related directly to Flow, but I've been experimenting a lot in the last several months. And one of the things that is true is that Claude is much better at the kinds of things I've been asking it to do, including generating flowcharts and swim lane diagrams in semi-native mode. There's an MCP from Lucidchart that you can connect to Claude or ChatGPT and have it generate diagrams directly in the chat. It's kind of cool. And Visio guy that I am, I'm going to say this out loud. What Lucid is doing with AI-assisted diagramming in general and the process agent that they're building is pretty impressive, pretty darn good.
I'll have to check that out. I haven't looked at that part of it yet.
Yeah.
So.
You can also tie into Canva, and it does amazing charts through Canva as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, their level of integration with what's going on in the world is pretty impressive.
Yes.
Yeah, I use Claude pretty frequently for just everything.
Yeah.
Basically.
My focus has been on narrative to diagram.
Yeah.
And see whether what Copilot does, what Claude does, and just experimenting that way.
Those other systems are for when I'm out of Claude tokens.
One of the things I wanted to bring up, I forgot who said it, but when you have arguments between three executives, I think it was you, Mike, you have an argument between three executives. The one word that you can always bring up that will always cause trouble is contract. Because legal sees contracted one way, your IT will see contracted a different way. Yep. Meanwhile, your warehousing or whatever the other case is going to see it in a very different way.
Yeah.
And so what ends up happening is you have three variations. You're talking about what a contract, but from a very different perspectives.
Right.
And so one of the things that you have to understand, and why I like the idea of actually having a glossary, that glossary under contract may very well have three different definitions depending upon which silo it's coming from.
That's it.
And speaking to that point, one of the other things that I'll do with that glossary is if people can't figure out an agreed upon definition for a word or whatever it is, make up your own word. Okay, this is now a Geschnicken. This project includes Geschnickens and Grieber-Fretzens. They're completely separate things, even though you called them contracts and you called them contracts. Now they're Geschnickens and Grieber-Fretzens within this process.
Yeah. And
Grieber-Fretzens go this way and Geschnickens go that way.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's good.
Super helpful.
Right.
Just avoid the fire.
If you
Or
can
delay it.
right, if you can, or you're at least delaying it until you come up with a solution. And a lot of times you're going to find it happened. It happened back when I was doing information architecture with early information science. One of the things that happened when we were creating term stores, that would come up, and that was nightmare fuel for days.
Yeah.
And so it's something that it has to be taken extremely seriously. And especially when you're building, let's say, for example, a contract content type that you're going to share across the entire, tenant, that's great. However, you're going to need to keep in mind, because one variation may differ or may have different terms associated with that you need to kind of keep in mind, so that you might end up having optional metadata that's part of that particular content type.
Yep.
Inherited content types are your friend.
True.
Absolutely.
Very cool. All right. Any other questions, comments? That's good. That was a great discussion.
Yeah, good fun.
Awesome, thank you.
As part of the room system, you can actually switch the gallery as the primary versus what's being shown.
Nice. Was it just me, or was it doing it automatically based on certain?
I think someone online was messing with it.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was me.
Andy admits it.
The man behind the curtain, the Brits invading. What?
Ooh, what does this button do? All right. So, all right. So for upcoming sessions, we have Rob Windsor talking about the Microsoft Identity Platform in Entra. It's a level 1 to 200 level. So if it's something you're interested in or have not actually gotten your feet wet, I highly recommend it. Rob has been a stalwart in the MVP space for a long time. I can't say as old as I am because I'm older than dirt, but I'll pretend. And then if you're interested in speaking for either June, July, or August, here is a QR code. Please feel free to go ahead and submit a session that you might be interested in sharing. And don't feel like you have to be a professional speaker. You do not have to be. This is a community. We learn off of each other, and we'll be more than happy to work with you. So if it's something you're like, I came up with this amazing idea, feel free to share it. All righty then.
Do you guys want me to come in and talk about OpenClaw?
Claw, no.
Be fun.
That'd be
Did you drink some of
interesting.
is it a claw like seltzer, hard seltzer, right?
Yeah, yeah, there's that.
That would be White Claw.
It's White Claw. Yeah, bring that in. Claw talking White Claw.
Could be a good discussion.
Yeah.
A great discussion. We might not remember it the
White
next day, but
Claw,
that's
then
okay.
Open Claw. I think that would be the right order.
It would sure be an exciting conversation, though. So upcoming events, Microsoft 365 Community Conference is going to be held in Florida, Orlando to be exact, April 21st to the 23rd. That's next week, I believe.
Yes.
So that's coming. Later in the year, Collab Days New England, October 16th. It's on a Friday think of the SharePoint Saturdays got version 2, and so that's what Collab Days are. And it's on Friday, so you actually don't have to kill half your weekend in order to attend. However, when they release the tickets, I highly recommend to sign up immediately because it sold out very quickly last year. So it's something to keep in mind. Microsoft Power Platform Community Conference, that's going to be in Las Vegas. That's coming up in October as well.
Hey, Dave, do you know whether they've released a call for speakers?
For Collab Days, yes, they have.
No, not Collab Days,
Oh,
Power
I'm sorry.
Platform. Because I keep checking the website, and there are opportunities to speak in Abu Dhabi and several other Power
Sure.
Platform locations, but not the one in Las Vegas that I've
They
seen.
may, because it's October, they may not have released it as of yet, though. It's got to be really soon.
Yeah, I would have to. I keep checking because I figure 6 months out is all right.
One of them. Oh,
If you email Emily, she can put you there.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
there you go. And that fixes that problem. Microsoft Ignite coming November 17th through 20th. That is usually crashes over the third Thursday every single time. So we'll do one of two things. We'll either hold it the next week, or we will just put it on pause for that particular month, depending on what we can do. Or if we're lucky, we can snag one of the Ignite speakers to do it the next week.
Would the next week be Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I was gonna say, you need to always do it the previous week, because like next
That's
week.
right, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
Good point.
You don't want to run afoul of Thanksgiving.
Oh, no.
There was an Ignite watch party in Manhattan last November that I went to.
Oh, that we could do that.
That was actually a pretty cool event. There were, granted it's Manhattan, but there were probably 200 people, 150 people who came over the 2 days.
Right.
And there were
so
bunches of local speakers.
Oh, wow.
A few of us imported ones too. And then the watch party was basically just the keynote.
Okay.
But it was timed so that there was a closing panel of MVPs of several persuasions who commented about all the announcements and whatnot that had happened in the previous day. So it was if you want me to connect you to the guy who organized it, if I'm not volunteering to organize it.
I was going to say congratulations for volunteering.
Yeah, but he's a pretty cool guy. Peter Smulovic, some of you may know him. He's been around the community a long time, but he did a tremendous job organizing this thing, and it was worth traveling there, but it'd be fun to do something like that here.
Very, very cool. Awesome. Let's see here.
Did you say running afoul of Thanksgiving?
That is what he said. Yeah, he said that.
He absolutely did say that.
As I moved my chair further away.
Speaking of New York City, the Microsoft Community Days New York City is going to be July 31st. They have they've got the call for speakers open right now till I think May 15th, 14th or 15th, something like that.
Okay. Good to know. Thanks, Deb. Appreciate that. Let's see here. There's a lot of stuff happening. Go to pnp.github.io. There's a lot of different groups, a lot of different things to be able to join. This is just like 5 of the top ones, but there is a lot to be seen for communities there. So definitely check that out.
Are these local communities or these?
They're virtual.
Oh, virtual.
They're virtual, so therefore you can be anywhere, as the saying goes.
Okay.
Those are all the official Microsoft ones. These are all the user ones.
Gotcha.
All right. Let's see. Additional resources. Women's IT Pros is monthly. You can find them on LinkedIn. Power Addicts, monthly-ish. That's I can totally relate to that one. Power Hour. And then, of course, the Microsoft 365 Champion Community Call as well. There are other user groups in the area. Rhode Island SharePoint user group. That was held by DRC. I'm not sure.
I've seen them posted on Meetup still, so I'm not sure.
Okay, so it's possible that they are still meeting.
I'm sure they're still meeting.
I don't think DRC's in.
She's in like Andover, Mass now.
Oh, okay.
Or in that area somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Grand State I know is definitely restarted up again in a different location. So check out their website as well. Then Boston has multiple Azure groups as well as Power Apps and Power Automate as well. So there is a lot of potential user groups to help you in multiple areas across the New England area.
Yeah, I'm actually helping the co-run the Granite State when we meet at Skyterra, which is in Nashua, 6 Trafalgar Square. I think the next meeting is it's the first Thursday of the month, so I think it's May 7th. I don't remember who our speaker is in May, but in June we've got Mark Anderson talking about the maturity model.
Nice.
Yay.
Yeah, the maturity model. That's been coming along at a rapid rate. All right.
I'm referring to us personally and our relative personal
Dude,
degrees
I'm
of
still
maturity.
12 if that's the
Yeah,
case.
okay, good.
However,
I saw
my
Mark
bride tells me
Anderson speak
otherwise.
yesterday.
That's the immaturity model.
I'm the poster child. But anyway, let's see here. Any problems or tips? So this is a section of the user group where we like to say, hey, I have a problem that I've been dealing with. I've been struggling over it. Here's what it is. And we got a whole bunch of brains together. We can see if we can help you. Or you might have come across an aha moment where it's like, holy cow, this is the most amazing thing ever. We definitely want to hear from you as well. Take it away.
I have a question. So I run a one-man band. I'm it.
Okay.
And yet, when I connected to one of my domains today in Office 365, I was informed that my administrator had blocked my access to Copilot, and I needed to talk to my administrator.
That guy's a jerk.
Yeah, I can't deal with it. I was just curious whether this was a switch that got flipped somewhere that I don't know about. I haven't investigated anything yet. I was just curious.
I know some.
I had that happen. I had that happen today as well.
Oh, okay.
It happened today as well in our company tenant, but my dev tenant, it was fine.
Let's see something rolling out incrementally.
That's what I'm wondering. Yeah.
Yeah.
Smells like purview.
Potentially. So I have not witnessed it as of yet, but I do know that the messaging for agents and for Copilot in general has started to become, because AI has been released so quickly, a lot of pieces were still missing. So you're going to start seeing things like that starting to slowly fill in as they start to fill in the gaps that were left as they laid down the initial framework. And so now they're kind of filling it out.
Yeah.
Good question. And yeah, that I'm going to be kind of curious. I do know the change in the Copilot chat is has a different behavior now. If you do not have a Copilot license, that may be a part of dovetailing into that change that has just been released within, I think, the last 2 weeks, if memory serves correctly.
And where did you see this message?
In a browser.
In a browser?
Yeah. I went to Copilot in the browser, and it said, sorry.
Interesting.
Where did you see it, Deb? I think that was Deb.
Yeah, it was Deb. I believe. It could have been Elizabeth.
Try a different browser.
No, that was me. Sorry. I have a thunderstorm going on and 3 dogs jumping on me. It was actually the browser version of Copilot. I was able to log in on like the side line. That was working fine, but the browser part of Copilot and a few of my colleagues were actually in the meeting when I discovered it. A few people got a 400 error. So mostly the error I saw was Copilot is turned off and go see your admin.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that mirrors my experience.
Yeah.
So it sounds
400 is a page not found. 500 would
Yeah.
be a security error. So if it's policy, it would probably be a 500 error.
so it's not policy. Yeah. So it's not going to be purview. It's not a
400 is like an outage.
Right, which tells me that's why I was guessing, because of the release of the alteration of how Copilot chat works versus the full paid version of Copilot. I think that may be some residue, and that's where the messaging is starting to get dovetailed in. So that's,
folks, I've just thrown a couple of things in chat. One's this really good picture that I got from Microsoft at the beginning of this month, which is like how they are treating the standalone Copilot versus the paid Copilot. Obviously, it's now called Work IQ. Thanks very much. And how they're removing Copilot, debranding it from Windows. So it's slowly removing itself. That they're in the process of removing Copilot from the UI. Things are going to move and change.
This is that picture of the guy in the room with everything on fire.
Yeah.
We can't see the picture, so I'm just guessing.
So it might be breaking Copilot for those of us with licenses.
yeah, different.
Because you know how much they test things before they roll them out. You know that.
Of course. Any other questions, concerns, aha moments?
I have a concern.
Okay.
I am also a small person shop, and so everyone I deal with via Teams is external.
Right.
Correct.
My God, we need more banners alerting me of that fact. Thank you. But when I was in a meeting today, I was unable to share files via the chat with external users.
Yep.
I know that there are policies that can alter this behavior. I have opened up every single one of those policies at every single layer that I can possibly fathom, and I still can't share files via chat with external users.
Well, you missed one place.
Yeah.
I have no idea what it is. But
It could be their tenant that restricts it.
Yes, that's the other
It
thing.
is not, because I manage their tenant as well.
One of
It's
the
not a
tricky
bug, it's a feature.
things in Teams, make sure that whatever policy modifications you're making, you're actually assigning it to the group that you belong to. Because if you just leave it by default, it is unassigned.
Okay.
So check that out. The other
That
part
would be
is
awesome. I'm making all these changes and they're not applying to anyone at all. That's fantastic.
while you're in there, you might as well change the meeting retention schedule.
I have done that.
Okay.
Yes.
Because
And I also got a request to do that for 3 of my clients.
today you
So,
get
yeah,
an
I've
alert.
been just doing the
Okay, you
rounds.
can't just throw that out there without explaining to everyone else
Yes,
online,
please.
please.
So today you get an email after 90 days saying that your meeting
Yeah.
recording's been deleted.
Mhm.
They're going to stop sending that message.
Oh, that's awesome.
good to know. So check your trash regularly.
Fixed it.
Oh,
We fixed the glitch. He's just not going to get paid anymore. We didn't fire it.
But my Microsoft telemetry, I guess, showed that most people never go back to a recording.
Yeah.
So
That's fair.
So you can either increase that up to I think like 10 years in that admin panel, or you can just
I think you can do indefinite.
yeah.
I was stretching it up. I put mine to 3 years.
So there's that. The other thing, and honestly, this is gonna sound a little cliche. Ask Copilot how to do something, and it's actually guided me to like the exact page, exact setting
Yeah.
when asking like stuff that like is
Copilot knows where the
mislabeled.
Microsoft bodies are buried.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
that's
they
cool.
do. Jamie Hoffa, not so much.
That's cool.
Is this
You need a Copilot
can't answer
license for
question.
that to work?
Forget about it.
It looks to be a web search.
I know the
Okay.
answer. I can't send it. Any other ideas, concerns, comments? Arthur?
I have a question. I have a client, their team site has too many files. Is there a simple way to say archive everything before 2024 or something?
It's coming soon. File level archiving.
So
And
file level
preview.
archive is coming soon. However, if you have entire sites, you have the ability to archive entire sites.
Yeah, you do.
However, it
Not the
does,
whole.
okay, so
But you probably want to move them first.
You could probably write a simple flow that would do that. Move
Yeah.
everything after X date.
Yeah.
What is your objective? Is it to save money on extra storage costs?
No, their synchronization is too slow because there are too many files in that team.
So don't sync it. Do the link to OneDrive.
Yeah. To Deb's point, don't sync the entire library. Sync just the folders that you need.
Yeah.
Or if you do need to sync the entire site for some reason,
They
then
do.
just then move the content you don't need and split the sites into multiple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would do that with a client.
You can
Make
have
another
multiple
site.
document
Yeah,
libraries
but I
within
mean,
the
for
same
you to hit
site.
that limit, that's like 300,000 files.
Yeah, no, yes,
they beat
they're
that.
at 500,000.
Yeah, there's no reason to be syncing 500,000 files.
Well, I know, but
But it
it's not,
doesn't
that's
even
why
do
it's
that.
not.
It does piles on demand.
But
Yeah.
still,
But the thing is,
it
even
says the query for
stubs,
changes constantly.
What,
Yeah,
do I
okay.
create a new team site?
Yeah, I was creating multiple team sites.
or
And then I only have the people sync the ones that they need.
Okay.
Or there's another way you can do is create another document library, have that as your archive, and
Yeah.
just have
Yeah.
them move stuff that is not being used anymore
Yep.
from.
Exactly.
You just use the move to command that
Mhm.
comes built right into your document library.
That
Mm.
move to only moves like 100 documents at a time, though.
100 at a
It's-
time. Yep. That's the limit.
Brutal.
And it's not reliable for very large libraries.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. That is
No,
true.
you want to use a flow for it because a flow can pick up where it left off after
Yeah.
it borks, because it
Yeah,
will bork on 500,000 files.
Yeah, well, he's not gonna move, the reason why I said that, he's not moving all 100, 500,000.
Sure, but it's going to bork on trying to move a small portion.
If it's like 250,000, that's
Yeah.
that's a lot.
I mean, with large sites or libraries, I would always recommend moving it to a separate site collection or a SharePoint
I
site.
like it.
And because the reason is if you go back to historical SharePoint structures,
Yeah, that's true.
you can't have a site span multiple databases on the back end, which go back to blocking.
Okay.
But if you move it into different sites, Microsoft could load balance it into a separate database, in which case you don't have as many row level blocks in SQL. I don't know if they've changed the architecture in SharePoint Online. They very well could have, but at least traditionally that was kind of the delineator.
And also, if nobody accesses the archive site after a certain period of time, they'll automatically drop it down to a lower storage level.
I don't think they do that.
But they don't do
No,
that.
they don't do that. Mm-mm. You have to do that. You have to enable it first of all in your tenant to archive.
Really?
And then you only get the lower storage level. You get charged 5 cents per gigabyte per month if you're at or above your quota.
Right.
Yeah,
Are
they're
there-
only a total of 1.5 terabyte. I mean, through the whole thing. So it's
Mhm.
So they still have wiggle room. So yeah, archive might be an overkill. But if I remember correctly, Arthur, you were talking about the fact that they have all of their different departments in this one Uber document library.
Ooh.
I would definitely
Yeah, split that up.
lean on what Dimitri is saying. It's
Split
actually
it.
great to split it up.
Yeah, library for each department, and then go to the top folder level, open that up, and move the files underneath that top folder level. First of all, the URL gets much smaller. You're less likely to hit that URL limit, which everybody does in folders, and their performance will improve significantly.
Yeah, agreed.
Yep.
thank you.
You're welcome.
What the ceiling said.
You want to- Oh no, I'm getting.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw
That's a common scenario in a lot of places, and I like to just take that top layer.
Oh, that's right. I'm older
Filter it
than
out.
Bert. I keep forgetting. Anyways, a huge thanks to Turn Digital for
And bring us food.
food.
Pizza.
And then our past sponsors.